Oh, do I have an email for you? Are you ready for this?
I don't know that I am, but let's go for it.
Dear esteemed researcher, we have read your outstanding manuscript with great interest.
They haven't. They absolutely have not. They have never heard of you, actually.
And no one has ever read a manuscript of mine whatsoever and been like, this is outstanding, nor with actual great interest.
Especially not, what is it? The International Journal of Multidisciplinary Global Advanced Innovation Studies, in sustainability.
Which, for some reason, emails me 3 times a week asking me if I have any more outstanding manuscripts looking for a home.
Yes, different journal, same font, often same person signed on the bottom, running another journal.
Right, like how many journals can you have? How many hours in a day do you have? Are you the Beyonce of academia? I have questions. Right, so like if you've been in academia longer than 5 minutes, chances are you've gotten one of these very similar emails.
And if you haven't, congratulations on your youth, but also it's coming. It's just a matter of minutes, probably.
It's totally coming. And so today we're going to talk about predatory journals, but not in the usual don't be dumb kind of way, because that feels like a take.
So this is not a checklist episodes or how can you be so dumb episodes? How can anyone fall for this? This is a reality and it's hard to sort through.
Right, because people who tend to engage in these predatory journals aren't necessarily careless. They're thoughtful. They're, engaged in their research. But what they are is under pressure.
And they're operating in a system that asks you to perform, but refuses often to explain what counts and what doesn't count. And so you feel somewhat trapped. You have to produce, and this is what creates that pressure.
Yeah, they're demanding this kind of perpetual, rapid output, preferably yesterday.
And acting shocked when people panic submit something when it's not ready, or to a journal they haven't vetted fully. It's just there.
So today on this episode, we're going to talk about why predatory journals exist, who they target, and why shame is basically their entire business model.
And what actually helps when you're staring at your inbox thinking, is this real? Or am I just tired?
Or is this just AI slop?
And it is.
Most of the time it is. I'm Nick. I'm an associate professor of elementary literacy education, K6, here at UNL.
I'm Guy Trainin, professor of innovative learning technologies here at UNL.
Ooh, look at you revising that title.
Yeah.
Very nice. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1.
And this is Not That Kind of Doctor.
We're so in sync.
Today's episode is brought to you by False Urgency, suspiciously fast peer review, and the phrase esteemed researcher and outstanding manuscript.
Outstanding manuscript, also magnificent contribution. That's another one that I've heard.
Oh, yeah.
Theme music.
All right. So before we can talk about how people get burned, we need to be clear about what we mean by predatory, because not every journal is a scam.
No, not every journal is.
Not even every bad journal is a scam.
No, and not every journal that looks like a website from Yahoo Cities. What was that called? Shoot. Early 90s. If it looks like a website from the early 90s, doesn't necessarily mean...
GeoCities?
That's it. That's it.
Yes.
There's only so much brain space, right? GeoCities. So I think it's helpful to spend some time thinking about what actually makes a journal predatory. If it were a documentary, Richard Attenborough would be like, and here the predatory journal is getting ready to attack the novice researcher with promises of, their magnificent manuscript meeting outstanding. what makes that a predatory journal rather than a journal that's just bad or new or unfamiliar or striving, right? So you've been very like in the game for a very long time.
For a while, yes.
Only because you started early. That I'm not calling you old. Just to be clear.
Yeah. We're good.
Okay.
We're good. Yes, I've been doing this a long time. It's an advantage.
Well, and beyond that, you've done it well. Like you've been very thoughtful.
I appreciate that. Yes.
About where you're sending things, impact, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear your thoughts about what actually makes a journal predatory. What defines predatory for you versus just
and
a little sloppy?
And this is really important because there are a lot of journals right now. I did an analysis just in education. We have 10 times the number of journals that there were 25 years ago when I started. So obviously there's an inflation somewhere. There are also more scholars than we've had, and they're all publishing more. So it's got to go somewhere. And part of that world is predatory. Part of that world is just other stuff and that's the amazing thing, is it's hard to tell because there are things that look like other things, right? Because the whole point about the predatory journals is they are trying to look like a legitimate journal. I mean, nobody would come if they say, we're a predatory journal and we don't care about you at all. By the way, none of the publishers care about you. It's not what they do. But they are a challenge as we think about this. And usually it starts with just a gut feeling. So I try to identify journals early in the process. So it's not I have a manuscript, I'm shopping for a journal, which is a way to do this sometimes. But I am beginning a manuscript, I'm creating a list of possible places it can go. And so when I think about what's predatory, it has a combination of things. One of the things that is clear is you got to pay up. That is, they are not relying on them being indexed by a university and then bought part of a package somewhere. They are most of the time relying on the authors paying. Now, there are legitimate places to pay. So the fact that there's pay involved is not enough to make it predatory.
Right.
It's when they suddenly reveal that to you. So there's an amount of deception there where they're saying, oh, just submit. You go through everything. You go to the review. And then they say, oh, we forgot to tell you there's a fee. Or they tell you there's a fee, but they don't say how much. And then you come back and they say, well, it's $9,000. And you're going, you could have told me that at the beginning. I would have not gone down this road because this is not something I can afford. And so there's definitely that amount of deception. And the second thing is when you get your results really, really fast. If you're getting a turnaround within 3 days and there are very few comments, it's time to say, there's something going on here. And on the other hand, I'm really democratic. So I want people to publish. I want to create as many quality venues as possible. So I've reviewed for a lot of these outfits. And it's very simple. I review for them. I check how they manage my comments. And are they actually asking them to make a change? Or is it a week later published? So I just finished the review. A week later, it's already published with what they claim were some corrections. And I'm going, you totally ignored everything I said, and I never touched a journal. So from a definition perspective, it's like, it's got to be, there's an amount of deception, there's low quality, and there's very clearly things going on with peer review.
Right, and we're talking low quality in terms of like the actual content of the peer review process, the editing process, because some of these journals will look really snazzy. Some of them look beautiful.
Yes.
Like the graphic design, on point. But when you get into the nitty gritty of it, you lose the process, right? Like you lose that feedback, you lose the revisions. And there's this notion of like, oh, it's a new journal, it could be predatory, and that's not necessarily how that works at all, right? So you have to be really thoughtful in doing that little bit of research, right? This reminds me of, do you remember Beale's List at all?
Yeah.
Like 2007-ish? 2007?
I don't know what year.
I think it was 2007. It doesn't exist any longer, but Beale is a librarian who was at University of Colorado Boulder, and he constructed this list of journals that he thought had these characteristics of being predatory. And that was just as I was starting grad school. Oh gosh, I'm old. I'm doing the math in my head.
You're not old.
I'm older than I've ever been, but younger than I will ever be again. But it's important to remember that like that is historical. It's not authoritative. There were lots of criticisms around it, but also some really solid things around it. It hasn't been updated. It's still floating out there, and that might be one of the ways to like think about, hey, is one of these journals on this list ever, and have things changed? But the thing about that list was it filled this kind of vacuum that institutions who want their faculty to be publishing never addressed.
Yeah, and it's tricky to address it. I understand why institutions are struggling with this. I know that there have been some efforts in Europe to identify some predatory publishers, not individual journals, because the unit of journal, actually, in this case, matters very little. Mm-hmm. It's the publisher, because the publisher has a strategy, and they often have. I mean, we have publishers now who are publishing thousands of journals. Mm-hmm. So the biggest publishers right now, both legitimate and borderline, are publishing 5,000 journals, 1,000 journals. The internet was magic, still is magic. Mm-hmm. And with AI, even more magic, but also lots of slop. Because the cost of production has gone to zero. And that's partially, and this is something to remember that we often don't talk about, and that is this whole system is some people making money and other group of people doing the labor. And the people doing the labor is us, right?
Right.
We review for free, we write and give our rights away. And the only thing we get in return is the ability to distribute our ideas. That is the only thing that is given into us. We do not share the money. Even when I write a book, I don't get a lot of money. I get some money. Yeah. Enough for a dinner. I mean, I've written many a journal article. I did not even get a snack. And they are making a lot of money. So it's a good business for them. And it's really easy. Once you have like one graphic designer, he can graphically design literally thousands of them at this point. You don't need a lot of people. Again, if you're not having a good editorial process, you don't need to do much work. You're like, oh, the reviewer said this, you fix this, I'm pushing a button and it's published. Mm-hmm. So technology has made this.
And it's not just journals, it's books as well, like edited books.
Yes.
Right? Like, I think about like the...
Don't get me started.
Did you have the Who's Who in American high school, yada yadas, or Who's Who in research, yada yada yada? Yeah. Like, the whole model of that is, oh, we're going to include you, give us your bio, and then we're going to ask your library to purchase a copy, or we're going to...
Or for the extra money, you can be highlighted and have flowers around your name. Yes, I know. Yes. I will say that when I was young, I did pay for that once.
Yeah, well, in the thing about my experience with some of those, particularly with the edited books, is you don't pay for them.
Yes.
But there's always could you just nudge your librarian? And it's like, no, dude, I'm done.
Yes, and with the edited books, the problem is that we're not paying, right? Mm-hmm. That's a different predatory, but somebody else is paying, whether it's our library. And the costs are outrageous. For me, it creates a problem, although I did do that a few times, but I'm almost completely stopped because I want my stuff read. If it's behind a paywall, and a paywall that's really high, some of these books are selling for like $400. Mm-hmm. They're like, if we sell 100 of those, we're done. right? We've made our money plus effort. So we need 100 libraries to say yes, and we're moving on. And on our side, it's like nobody will ever read this because it sits in X number of universities and nowhere else. Whereas the advantage of and that's where we're getting to open access.
Right, because there is, we want to make sure that we're not like just slapping predatory on anything that isn't a traditional subscription journal, because one, elitist, but there is this larger question of how we distinguish between a predatory journal and something that is just legitimately open access. And how does that work? Because you don't necessarily want all of the things that you're writing hidden behind a paywall.
Yeah.
Right? So,
and open access has emerged as a legitimate way to shift the costs, especially when some of the work is grant funded. And you can say, well, you can use your grant and now anybody can read it because you've used your funds, build it into your budget. And that's fairly legitimate, although the costs. Nature, I think, is now charging $10,000 or so to publish. At least with some of them. So that's for us in education, for example, that's not a reasonable amount of money that you can say, oh yeah, you can publish here. You will work really hard, we will make you do a lot, and then we will ask you for $10,000. And many of the education journals, especially the legitimate ones, they have the option. So you can put it behind the paywall, or if you have the money, you can pay for it and then it becomes open access. So I like that option, although it is still very, very expensive. Ludicrously expensive.
Yeah, and it's just this reminder that like open access, even if we're thinking about online only journals, there are still costs associated with that.
Yeah.
There's servers, there's if people are downloading it, et cetera, et cetera. So like it is this business model, but it's not necessarily an ethical failure, but it does sometimes feel like the organic label on produce where it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Right? Like
it means whatever the person putting the label on.
Exactly. It's very open to spin, right? So even legitimate journals, like you said, will offer that opportunity to either pay that amount and make it open access, or there are just some journals, I'm thinking about the AERA Open Access Journal, that are very upfront about what they're doing. And that to me isn't predatory. It's
as long as you know
what the parameters. You know.
So you need to know in advance, and you need to have a good peer review process. Those are the things that would trip you up. And so what are some of the indicators that are like, this is looking fishy, and I need to look more into it?
So I think one that we've already talked about is that hidden or aggressive or changing fee, right? Like, it'll cost this much at the beginning, and then when you've gone through the entire process, these things have changed, it's now this much. Like, that's a red flag.
Absolutely.
Do not bring them home to meet your parents for the holidays. This is where you need to break up, right? Also, if you're getting a lot of emails, heavy solicitation, dear esteemed researcher.
Yes, we have read, how it goes. Dear esteemed researcher, we have read your paper named and we think that you might be really well suited to publish in our journal, If you have any manuscripts or even parts of manuscript or maybe a review, when they start getting desperate, I'm suspicious.
Well, and to separate that out really quickly, because if it's basic and generic like that, chances are red flag. If it's like, I have had them where I've had to like double check them because they're like, we read this, we have this issue coming out, and we think you might have something for this, and here's why. Like, it actually feels like someone's writing to me, like someone's actually read that article and not just pulled it from Google Scholar, and that feels like a different thing. But I was able to verify, like, the person sending this email actually exists.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. Editorial boards are not just stock images of people. So you want to do a little bit of like background and also check the scope. Like this notion of like, we cover everything.
Yeah.
Do you? Is that possible?
Well, we cover everything because we will publish anything. It's the other part of that sentence.
Yeah.
It's
It's a little terrifying. Also, the implausibly fast peer review, and you've hinted at this.
yes. It comes back. And I've done fast reviews. I mean, there are journals who say, can you do this within the next 2 weeks? Which I respect, because it's not like if you give me 3 months, I'm reading it every day of those 3 months. I do not.
Yep.
It's not what we do. So you can shorten it. And I would argue that part of the success of Predatory and new journals is because the traditional journals just take forever. I've had things in review. Right now I have one, we're on the 5th round of reviews. And the first few I respected, it made the paper better, everything else. Now we're changing 5 words here and 2 words there. There's a point where that process that has been going on for a year and a half is too long. And it could have been shorter if the cycle would have been a month every time instead of 3 months and then extension for the reviewers. And so, in a way, the system, the old system, created this opening for new journals to come in and show as more effective. And some of them will be predatory because I need to show my chair, right across there, my chair, that I'm publishing, right? And so I need something now. If I know this is going to be with this, I've had journals, again, repeatedly, 2-year timelines. Because everything takes 6 months. Every round of, and I'm all in for the corrections, but if it's 6 months for every round, that's killing me, people. I need to publish or perish, and I'm going to perish.
I mean, ideally, you're gonna publish, which brings us to, I think, our last big thing that we want to talk about, because the uncomfortable question becomes really thinking about, are there situations where publishing in a questionable or non-traditional venue might serve a scholar's goals? Because people are making real decisions under real pressure. Like, it's not like, academia, everything is awesome.
No,
everything is not awesome.
Although some things are awesome.
I mean, some things are awesome. We're awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
We are.
Well, I'm just going to stop there.
Yes. Let's not get into other things, but yes.
So situations where publishing in a questionable or non-traditional venue might be helpful.
Yeah, and I think that it has some advantages. And one of the advantages is speed. If you've got 3 papers that are stuck in an endless loop with the journals, and I have a graduate students who now, when it gets to 2 months under review, 3 months under review, she sends the editors a note and saying, hey, so can you tell us where are we in the process? And I'm like, well, we still don't have answers. It's like, there are moments where you're like, I need to show from a pressure perspective. I need to show that I'm publishing something. So choosing something that is looking different, but will get me a result fast, will show intent, right? Will show that I am being productive, because all of that work between me and the journal is invisible to the world. Nobody cares until it gets published.
Right.
And so that's one thing. The other thing is, and I've been thinking about this a lot, I'm working right now in innovative learning technologies. Publishing fast is where it's at. If I'm taking 2 years to publish something about AI has changed, and people have already published and are being cited about the same thing as I've done, or something similar, but now I'm not the one being cited. Somebody else is, because they've been out there for 2 years. People are looking for people to cite. They're looking for the information. So sometimes it does make sense to go and go to a place that's doing it a little bit faster. It's less prestigious, but at least the information is out there.
Right. And thinking about, I think where you want to engage your agency, your judgment across all of this is, one, as long as you're making that informed choice, and it aligns with what your career goals are, beautiful. And as long as you're being thoughtful around what's the function of this publication right here, because if it's nothing but predatory journals, then that's not going to look great. So you want to be thinking about that. There is, or just time sensitive or insensitive journals, I guess. They just go like that. But if that's all you have on your resume, that like on your CV,
that's gonna stick out too,
right? Because like the reality is that tenure and promotion systems lag behind publishing realities, and that's a real pressure, right? And institutions benefit from output while also avoiding responsibility because it's, oh, you need to publish, but oh, you published there? Like,
So when you're thinking, again, going back to agency, when you're thinking, is it worthwhile? And I, for example, went for early on, when there were very few open journals, I had this question. I think that the stigma of just you paid for publication has gone away. For the most part, not for everything, but for the most part, that has gone away. But at the time, it was a little bit questionable, but I wanted something out. And it was a good venue. And I tried to read as much as I could into my institution's direction about this and to see if it counts or doesn't count. As you said, sometimes opaque. But I decided I want this out. This is an opportunity. We're just going to go for it. So make that decision, but also consult what the institution is looking at. And after you try that, see what the response is. And that will help guide you a little bit more. And so be thoughtful is really what we're saying. And exercise agency.
Have a valid publishing diet.
Yeah.
Right? So...
And explore the journal. I mean,
and explore the journal.
Like, the title is not enough.
It could be of benefit to you.
Yes. So before we wrap this up, we want to say this clearly. If this episode's made you nervous, that makes sense.
Because not knowing whether a journal is legitimate does not mean that you're bad at your job. It just means that you're doing professional judgment in a system that punishes uncertainty.
And predatory journals work mostly because they convince people to stay quiet, because silence feels safer than admitting, I'm not sure about this.
But that slowing down, that's not a failure. That's not a personal failure. And asking someone else to look at an email with you is not incompetence, right? Like, that's what actual professionalism looks like.
And if you've already been burned, that doesn't define your career in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't erase your work, and it doesn't mean you should carry that alone.
Because academia creates conditions for these kinds of scams, and individuals end up absorbing those consequences.
So take care of yourselves, ask the questions out loud.
And remember, this was never a personal failure.
We'll see you next time.